If you're planning to visit Pakistan, there is no better place to start than the north. Traveling to Pakistan can be a bit overwhelming, but there's no better introduction to the country than traveling to its northern areas. So because Pakistan is so huge, it's impossible to see the entire country in a couple of weeks. You need at least a month to really see all of its regions. But by traveling to the north, you get the best of Pakistan. You get the best of nature in Pakistan, its mountains, its lakes, its deserts, but also a taste of its culture and history, and a taste of its urban life and its architecture, which is why I think this is the best itinerary you can possibly do if it's your first time traveling to Pakistan. If you're new here, hi, my name is Laura, and I've spent the past few years traveling all over the world to places like Kenya and Tanzania, France, Switzerland, Pakistan, and much more. In this channel, I typically share lots of travel vlogs, hidden gems, and travel guides, so if that sounds like something you like, make sure you subscribe, and now let's get back into the video. So during your first day in Pakistan, you're going to explore the city of Islamabad. Islamabad is Pakistan's capital city, and it also has one of the country's biggest international airports, so it's an easy point of entry into the country. Islamabad is actually very different from other Pakistani cities because while other cities in Pakistan are very historical and they have been there for centuries, cities such as Lahore, Multan, or Karachi, Islamabad is a relatively new city. It was actually designed to be Pakistan's capital city and it was built in the 1960s, so it's a very modern city and it's also very green, and I will be completely honest, I don't find Islamabad that appealing. However, it is a good point of entry into the country, and you also need to go through Islamabad to see the rest of the things in this itinerary, so since you're here, might as well visit it, right? During your day in Pakistan, you're going to visit the Faisal Mosque, which is one of the most famous mosques in the world. It is one of the biggest in the world and the biggest in Pakistan, and it is also very unique because of its dome and its architecture is very modern. You're also going to visit the Pakistan Monument, which I actually really liked. I didn't find Islamabad as a whole super appealing, but I did like the Pakistan Monument. And if you have time, visit the Lok Virsa Museum, which is right in front of it, which it has a lot of information about cultures and cultural diversity in Pakistan. And to finish your day, go to Taxila. So while I don't find Islamabad that interesting, Taxila is fascinating. So Taxila is an ancient city which was super important for Buddhists. It was very important as a Buddhist learning center, and it has seen so many kingdoms come and go. Alexander the Great actually invaded the city at one point, and yeah, it's very interesting. It is incredibly well preserved. And you can just learn so much about Pakistani history and the history of the Silk Roads by visiting Taxila. So moving on to day 2, this is the day when we're heading to Gilgit, Baltistan, which is the most touristic region of Pakistan, and it is in the north, it is in the mountains. So you're gonna drive all the way from Islamabad to Chilas in Gilgit, Baltistan, and this is roughly a 10-hour drive. So if you don't want to do this drive, if you don't want to spend an entire day on the road, you can absolutely get a flight from Islamabad to Gilgit. But I recommend that you do the drive because the views towards the end of it are simply stunning. My favorite viewpoint along the road is a place called Babusar Top. So Babusar Top is over 4,000 meters above sea level in altitude, and it is just stunning. I got super lucky and I got to see it with this rainbow, but even without the rainbow, it is just mesmerizing. And I honestly think that this drive is worth it just for this view alone. However, other great viewpoints were this one in the Naltar Valley, Lulusar Lake, and I didn't get time to see this one, but you can also go to Saiful Malook Lake, which I would recommend. The photos from Saiful Malook look stunning. Okay, so moving on to days 3 to 5. So on day 3, you're going to wake up in Chilas. Chilas doesn't really have anything to see. It's just a town in Gilgit, Baltistan. You can see the Indus River here, but that's about it. However, you're going to drive over to Ferry Meadows, and that's where you're going to stay until day 5. So getting to Ferry Meadows is actually a little bit complicated. You have to get on a jeep which will take you along the second most dangerous road in the world, and yes, it is just as scary as it sounds. My recommendation, just leave your mind blank and you will be fine. But yeah, it is a pretty scary road. I'm sure you've seen videos about it all over social media. If you're wondering where that was, it's this road right here, the one leading to Fairy Meadows. But there comes a point where the jeep simply cannot continue because the road is too narrow, so when you get there you have two options. You can hike or you can get on a horse. My recommendation is, if you're not fit, if you're not used to altitude, definitely get on a horse. And mind you, they are small horses, just so you know. But this will take around 3 hours from when you get on the horse or when you start hiking to get all the way up to Fairy Meadows. And I've spoken about this before in my vlog about Fairy Meadows, but a lot of people online say that this is a pretty easy hike, pretty accessible. I very much disagree. I don't think this is beginner friendly at all. So if you're not fit, bear in mind that you might have to rent a horse or consider skipping this part. Once you get to Fairy Meadows, enjoy the view. Fairy Meadows is very famous for its view of Nanga Parbat, which is the 9th highest mountain in the world. It is over 8,000 meters high and it is just beautiful. Fairy Meadows feels like absolute paradise, like a remote valley. You know, it's a remote valley in the middle of the mountains with so much culture and hospitality, and it just feels like heaven. So walk around, enjoy, go to the reflection lake where you can see a reflection of Nanga Parbat, and get a good night's sleep for day 4. On day 4, I recommend that you do some hiking around Fairy Meadows. So the hike that I recommend is the one to the Raikot Glacier viewpoint, also known as Viewpoint 1. So you can once again hike up here, or you can also take a horse if you struggle with altitude like I do. But this is a wonderful viewpoint where you can see the glacier that comes down from Nanga Parbat. And if you're a very fit hiker and you want to hike a bit more, you can go all the way to Bayal Camp and maybe even Nanga Parbat Base Camp. On day 5, you're going to leave Fairy Meadows. You're going to go back down via, again, hiking or horseback and by the jeep on the super dangerous road. And you're in for another long day of driving, but that's just how it is in northern Pakistan. It is a very rugged place, so you have to be in it for the adventure if you're traveling here. But you're going to drive all the way to Hunza, which is pretty far away. I'd say 3-4 hours by car, roughly. However, as with the rest of Gilgit Baltistan, the views are spectacular, so this is a car ride that you will enjoy for sure. And once you get to Hunza, you should really visit Altit Fort and its royal gardens. So even though Hunza is mostly known for its nature, and it truly has some spectacular nature, its history is also fascinating and it has so much culture, so much tradition. And one of the places that you just have to visit is Altit Fort. On day 6, you're actually going to start the day by going to Baltit Fort, which is pretty close by. Both Altit and Baltit Fort were actually owned by the same royal family, so it also has a lot of history, but slightly different from Altit Fort and just as fascinating. After that, you're going to go to Atabad Lake, which is a very famous lake in Hunza, and then you're going to go to Eagle's Nest. So Eagle's Nest is a place where you can get this amazing view of the whole of Hunza Valley. You can actually see Altit and Baltit Fort from here as well. And I really recommend that you go at sunset. It was actually pretty cloudy when I was there, so I didn't get to see sunset, but some of the photos that I've seen of sunset here are just amazing, so definitely time that up to go in the afternoon. On day 7, you're going to stay around the Hunza area, but you're going to drive a little bit further, all the way to Passu Cones. So Passu Cones is one of the most iconic landscapes in northern Pakistan, and you can actually cross the Passu Bridge while you're here, which is said to be the most dangerous bridge in the world. It is actually an incredibly thrilling adventure. I really recommend that you do it. It was so much fun. And if you want to hike, you can also do the Passu Glacier hike here, although I only recommend it if you're really fit. After that, you're going to go to the Yak Grill restaurant. So the Yak Grill restaurant is a very popular tourist stop in northern Pakistan, and as the name suggests, it serves yak meat, which is very common throughout this part of the world. It is absolutely delicious and also pretty affordable, so I really recommend that you stop here, and the view from here of the Passu Cones is also amazing. On day 8, you're going to drive from Hunza all the way to Skardu. So Skardu is another very famous valley in Gilgit Baltistan, a very popular tourist stop as well. However, it is on the other end of Gilgit Baltistan, so this is going to be another pretty long driving day. However, around halfway, you're going to stop to see the Naltar Valley. So basically, you're going to get on a jeep that will take you up Naltar Valley through a very questionable yet fun road. And Naltar Valley is simply gorgeous. It's full of trees, it's very green, and it has some very, very unique lakes. So this lake right here, it is just otherworldly. Like, the colors in it feel so surreal. There are truly no words to describe it. Even the camera can't quite capture how colorful and beautiful this lake is. And you're also going to go up to Blue Lake, which is right next to the other one. So Blue Lake is, like the name suggests, an incredibly blue lake. It also feels otherworldly, and I promise this is not saturation. It really looks like that in real life. It is honestly just amazing. In Naltar, you can also see a snow leopard. So there's a snow leopard sanctuary in the valley, and it has one lone leopard which was rescued from a very unfortunate situation. So you can go and see him if you want. And after that, you're just going to continue all the way down to Skardu. On day 9, you're going to wake up in Skardu, and there's 2 places in Skardu that you just have to visit, starting with Upper Kachura Lake and Lower Kachura Lake. So these 2 lakes are super close together, and Lower Kachura Lake is also known as Shangri-La Lake. And actually, before I went here, I didn't think that this place would be worth visiting, because Shangri-La Lake became very Instagram famous a few years ago because of its very unique architecture, and because if you see the lake from above, it has the shape of a heart. And honestly, I thought this was going to be one of these places that was just very hyped up by Instagram and not really worth it in real life. However, this place completely surpassed my expectations. The buildings next to the lake actually belong to a resort called the Shangri-La Resort, and you can go inside with a day pass for only about 1,000 Pakistani rupees, which is pretty affordable. And I didn't think I'd have that much fun just going around the resort, but it is actually so beautiful and so peaceful, so I highly recommend it, and I do think it's one of those places that if you're in Skardu, you just have to go to. And after that, you're going to visit a cold desert. So a cold desert is basically a sandy desert with dunes in the middle of the mountains. And mind you, these mountains are 6,000, 7,000 meters high. So these landscapes are so impressive. I recommend that you go to Katpana Desert, and there's actually a hotel here called Glamp Pakistan. Well, it's actually glamping, it's tents, but luxurious tents that overlook this beautiful, beautiful valley below. So I recommend that you spend the night here. But there's also another cold desert called the Safranga Cold Desert, which has lots of activities. You can horse ride here, you can do paragliding, I think. There's lots of things that you can do in Safranga that you just can't do in Katpana. If you have time, I also recommend that you visit a place called Karpocho Fort. So Karpocho Fort is pretty similar to the Alted and Balted forts that I mentioned in Hunza, and here you can learn a lot about the history of Skardu Valley, which I find fascinating, and I'm willing to bet that you do too if you're watching this video. However, because they're pretty similar to Alted and Balted fort, if you don't have time to do everything that I mentioned, this is probably the thing that I would skip. Like, only do this if you actually have time in Skardu. If not, I would dedicate time to doing other things and the other activities that I mentioned. On day 10, you're going to dedicate the entire day to visiting Deosai National Park. So Deosai National Park is accessible from Skardu. You will get on a jeep in Skardu and you will drive past Satpara Lake. You can stop here if you want to see the viewpoint, and then you will arrive in the national park, also known as Deosai Plains. Deosai is easily one of the most beautiful and breathtaking places that I've ever been to in my life, and I'm saying this as someone who has traveled to 22 countries or 23 countries. It is genuinely spectacular. I've talked about Deosai at length in some of my other videos about Pakistan, and I also vlogged my time in Deosai if you want to watch that. So I have all of my travel vlogs about Pakistan, about Ferry Meadows, Islamabad, Hunza, Skardu, Deosai and more, as well as lots of travel guides about how to visit the country basically, all in a playlist called Pakistan. So you can find that in my channel if you're interested in watching more videos about this beautiful country and getting yourself informed if you want to travel here as well. But moving on day 11, you're going to take a flight from Skardu to either Islamabad or Lahore. I recommend that you fly to Lahore because that's where this itinerary is going to take you anyway. So if you decide to fly to Islamabad, then you're going to have to drive all the way to Lahore, and that's roughly 6 hours of driving. So if you can, fly directly to Lahore. And this flight might as well be a tourist attraction of itself because it is just gorgeous. You can see glaciers from the plane window, and if you're lucky, you can even spot Nanga Parbat from the flight. And it is just one of the most amazing scenes that I've ever seen from a plane. It is truly spectacular. You will arrive to Lahore in the afternoon, and during the evening you're going to go to a place called Haveli Restaurant. So Haveli Restaurant is in the old walled city of Lahore, which I'll tell you more about the walled city in a minute. But this restaurant is super famous for its delicious food, but also because of its views. So it has one of the best views of Badshahi Mosque, which is one of the most iconic buildings in Pakistan. Make sure you come here in time for sunset. I actually missed the sunset and I'm so disappointed at that. I was really hoping that I could catch it, but the photos that I've seen of Badshahi Mosque from Haveli Restaurant during sunset are just incredible. So make sure you're here during sunset, and then you can have dinner here and try lots of different Pakistani dishes, and it is just a great place to spend the evening. And on day 12, you're going to explore the old walled city of Lahore. So Lahore is a city close to the border with India in the region of Punjab, so like very, very different from Gilgit, Baltistan and other regions of northern Pakistan that I've covered in this itinerary. It's like going from Skardu to Lahore is like stepping into a completely different world. But yeah, Lahore is a city of 30 million inhabitants, and it is an incredibly historical city. So the old walled city of Lahore holds a lot of this historical and architectural value. So you're going to go on a walking tour of the old city of Lahore, and on this walking tour you're going to visit places such as the Wazir Khan Mosque, which is my favorite building in the city. It is a 17th century Mughal era mosque, and it is actually the most ornately decorated mosque of the Mughal Empire, and it is just beautiful. You will also go to Badshahi Mosque, which is again the most iconic building in Lahore, one of the most iconic buildings in Pakistan, and this is also a Mughal era mosque, and it is one of the biggest mosques in the world. This place is truly spectacular. You will also visit the Lahore Fort and the Shahi Qila, which is a palace within the fort, and I didn't get the chance to do much of this, but you will also explore some of the streets, some of the markets, and enjoy the chaos of Lahore, because it truly is a chaotic city, but also so fun and interesting. At least from my perspective, I thought it was fascinating, just as fascinating as the old walled city and the history. If you have time, you should also go to the Shalimar Gardens. So the Shalimar Gardens are a bit further away from the walled city. They're not within the old walled city of Lahore, but they're also very historical. They're also like from the Mughal era. They're Mughal era gardens, and they are very, very beautiful. And lastly, to end the day, you're going to go to the Wagah border parade. So the Wagah border is a border post between Pakistan and India, and if you know anything about Pakistan and India, you know that these two countries do not get along. This border parade is meant to be a celebration of peace, like peace parade. If I'm honest, I don't really buy that. It is a spectacle of nationalism, in my opinion. However, it is very, very interesting to go, and as a tourist, I do recommend that you go. I recommend that you're critical with it, but I do recommend that you go. If you want to know more on my thoughts about the Wagah border parade, I talk about it more in my vlog about Lahore, which you can find on my Pakistan playlist, but that is the end of this itinerary. On day 13, you're going to fly out from Lahore International Airport back to your home country. And if you want to fly out from Islamabad International Airport, because that's your point of entry, and at the end of the day, it's always easier to book flights in and out of the same airport, you can definitely do that. You can spend day 13 driving to Islamabad, which is roughly 6 or 7 hours away. And there are actually several points of interest along the way as well. So about halfway between Islamabad and Lahore, you can find the Kyura salt mines. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, but these are the second largest salt mines in the world, and apparently they're very interesting. I didn't get to visit them myself because I flew out from Lahore, but if you want, that's definitely an option for you. And a lot of itineraries to the south of Pakistan, so the Punjab and Sindh regions, start in Lahore and end in Karachi. So if you want to join this itinerary with an itinerary that focuses more on the historical and cultural side of Pakistan and an itinerary along the Indus River Valley, you can definitely do that as well. Like I said at the beginning of the video, Pakistan is a huge country and it's impossible to see it all in just one video, so there's definitely points of interest along northern Pakistan in Gilgit Baltistan and in KPK that I left out because they didn't quite fit into this itinerary and it's impossible to see everything in under 2 weeks. So places like Swat Valley, Chitral, Kailash, I just couldn't fit all of these places within one itinerary, so I left them out. But if you really want to visit them, you can definitely do that and add them to your own itinerary if you really want to go. Anyways, if you're still watching, thanks so much for watching until the end. If you found this video useful, make sure you like, you comment, you subscribe. It really helps me out so much more than you think when you do that. And I hope to see you in my next video.